So the next morning, Shelley and I loaded up the vehicle and headed south on US 101 to Heceta Head Lighthouse. Heceta Head is named after the Spanish navigator and explorer Bruno de Heceta, who surveyed the area back in 1775. Yeah, long time ago. Gorgeous area. So when Shelley and I did our visit, we parked down near the Cape Creek Bridge, which US 101 goes over. That bridge makes a really great photo opportunity, especially in the early morning when there's sea fog coming in, moving up the cliff faces, in through the pines, and it's just gorgeous. So guess what the first shot is? Yeah, it's gonna be that bridge. So for my first composition, I'm shooting down by the creek at Cape Creek towards the bridge of US 101. We've got this gorgeous fog from the morning still lingering in the trees and on the cliff faces. So for my next composition, Shelley and I were just kind of lingering on the beach near Cape Creek there. From the beach, you can actually see Heceta Head. So I framed up this composition of the lighthouse and the second keeper's house. After I made that second photograph at the beach, Shelley and I took to the trail, headed up the cliff to the keeper's house. So as Shelley and I are walking up the trail to where the second keeper's house is, the reason why it's only the second keeper's house is because the first keeper's house was removed back in the 1940s. I found this gorgeous location where you could look out over the inlet for Cape Creek towards the cliff on the other side with the trees and the fog, and I just had to make this photograph. So after I got my fog shot, which I really love, with the fog rolling up through the trees, we made our way up to where the keeper houses were. The master keeper house is gone. It was removed back in the 1940s for the grand sum total of $10. Yeah, sad. So what we have left in the location is the second keeper, or the assistant keeper's house. So back in the day when it was a functioning lighthouse and you had lighthouse keepers, you would have a head keeper and assistant keepers. Your family would live on location with you. You would have to raise most of everything that you were going to eat because you were out in the middle of nowhere, very far from anything. Florence is the nearest town now on the Oregon coast to Heceta Head. And to journey to Florence back in the day, when there wasn't an automobile, it would have taken a few days. Plus you would have gone along the coast and you would have had to time it with the tides. Quite interesting. So here's my composition of the assistant keeper's house. It's also a bed and breakfast now. I'll leave a link down in the description below. Unfortunately, Shelley and I didn't know it at the time that we were planning the trip. Otherwise, we probably would have stayed there. And we probably would have stayed at Heceta Head for a couple days because there's tons of stuff to do, lots of hiking, and just general exploration of the area. But this is that composition of the second keeper's house. So after we were done photographing at the keeper's area, we proceeded up the trail to the main event, Heceta Head Lighthouse. This is my first composition taken at the actual lighthouse. I got in close, went wide at 14 millimeters, and distorted the building a little bit, but the effect that I got in the clouds was well worth the distortion. I like it. It's art. It's not meant to sell the building. So for my second composition at Heceta Head proper, not from a distance or from the beach, we walked up a trail behind the lighthouse, got above it, and were able to shoot down through the light element area. after we were done shooting behind the lighthouse, Shelley and I packed up our gear, headed back down the trail of the car, and then headed down US 101 to a scenic overlook that you can actually shoot back towards Heceta Head Lighthouse. So for my final composition, we have Heceta Head in the distance with wildflowers in the foreground on the cliff face. This was taken from a viewpoint just down US 101 to the south of the Cape Creek Bridge. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't yet done so, please hit the subscribe button and ding the bell so that you'll get notifications of future episodes. So next time, Shelley and I will be journeying down US 101 and the Pacific coast to the Coquilla and Umpqua lighthouses. See you next time.